Welcome to the Vintage Times, a program for older persons. On our program today, we will talk about elder abuse and neglect. It is a sad fact that older people are subject to abuse and neglect. In a recent survey done by the Downers Grove Township Salt Council, we learned that a significant number of older people worry about mistreatment by family members or other caregivers. Unfortunately, this is often a silent problem. It is important that we educate ourselves about the signs of elder abuse and to know what to do if we suspect elder abuse. We'll talk today to Andrew Love, who is Elder Abuse Specialist for DuPage County Senior Services. And thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you for having me, Hannah.
You're welcome. Can you describe to us what you do for DuPage County Senior Services?
Well, Hannah, my job is to investigate calls that the county receive involving seniors who may be victims of abuse. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And what is defined as a senior?
Well, a senior is, according to state law, is an individual who is of the age of 60 years old or older, and we have the responsibility of following up reports that are made involving these seniors who are specifically in the various communities throughout DuPage.
Okay, and you've had much experience in doing that.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I've had over 20 years experience working with seniors throughout the state of Illinois in this area of elder abuse.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sad but important.
Sad but very important.
Right, yeah. So can you define elder abuse and neglect? What is it?
Hannah, what I'll share with you is what the actual definition is as willful infliction of injury or confinement, intimidation, failure to provide care and assistance to the senior who has a need, failure to provide medication. These are, well, what we can define as abuse.
Okay. Can you detail to us when we talk about, let's say, financial abuse?
Okay.
What does that mean?
Okay, well, financial abuse is one of the various abuses that I would more or less like to share with you. And there are 6 classifications of abuse. Financial exploitation, as you stated, is one of them. And financial exploitation is the misuse of a senior's or elder person's money.
Okay.
And that can come by way of stealing the money or stealing property. There's another abuse which we would classify as emotional abuse. Emotional abuse involves threats that are being made towards the senior, verbal assaults and making the senior to feel humiliated, intimidating the senior. That's classified as emotional abuse.
Right.
We also have abuse which we would classify as neglect. A senior could be in a situation where they need support or supervision by caregiver. In some cases, it could be a family member or not. But an individual could, let's say, passively neglect to provide care and assistance to this individual. And what I mean by that is if that person failed to provide the basic necessities for that senior. There's also a form of willful deprivation. And this is a willful act by an individual to deprive a senior of the support or supervision that they need. And in this case, we have a scenario where a person who knows that the senior is requiring this assistance, but purposely do not, provide this assistance. Wow. Physical abuse is another one. And I'm just going down the line because these are classified. Physical abuse, which we know involves assault, battery, hitting, slapping. That's a component of abuse. Confinement is also a component of the abuse scenario. An individual can be restrained, isolated. We find a person can be confined. Say, for instance, an individual has Alzheimer's or dementia, and family member has a hard time managing the care, and decide, well, okay, well, I'll just lock you in the room.
Right.
And sad to say, but these things happen.
Abuse.
Okay, and sexual abuse also is, in fact, a form of abuse which can take place primarily with an individual who is unable to give consent, to the sexual activity, and this time this can take place in the home. Husband and wife, or wife is dementia or has some Alzheimer's, and could be placed in a situation where they're made or asked to do something that they can't confine or say that they want to. I'm sorry.
We read that these things can happen in a long-term facility too. Is that
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And in a case such as that, where we have nursing homes where there are, or there have been, reports of seniors who have been abused in this manner, and we have a component of the elder abuse program that investigate these things. It's called the Ombudsman Program. Right. So when in fact these things are suspected, or there is a need for an investigation, there is a component of the state that will go in and investigate those matters. Okay. Now, as far as elder abuse or my role, I'm primarily an individual that go into the community, to the home. Right. So I go into the citizens' residence.
But it's important to know it can happen at home and it can happen in institution.
Yes.
Is elder abuse and neglect a serious problem, Andrew?
Elder abuse and neglect is a very serious problem. We are, as again, with the years of experience that I've had, we've seen abuse just increase over the years. I had to share with you a graphic involving neglect and, abuse and neglect, and it shows you how, let's say in the state of Illinois, how the increase has, in fact, 10 to 15% a year. Wow. I know back in the year 2002, there was about 7,500 reports of elder abuse for the state of Illinois. A recent study shows that there were nearly 12,000 reports of abuse in the state just last year. So it is a problem.
These are reported cases. There probably are many that are not reported.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We oftentimes say that we're basically dealing with just the tip of the iceberg, because this is something that is kept under wraps, so to speak. It's an adult or an individual who can make a decision or not to call in to make a report, and therefore a lot of cases aren't called in to us.
Right. Are victims of abuse often reluctant to call to let someone know?
Absolutely. That is something that we find, most disheartening, because we can find seniors in situations that are deplorable, and in some cases we yet know that for a senior it's embarrassing. It's something that they don't want anyone to know anything about. When you think of a situation where you have an adult son or daughter who is mistreating their parents, that's something, as far as the parent is concerned, that they don't want anyone to know anything about. And therefore, this is something that we find more often than not that people want to keep to themselves. So people are reluctant, and pride is another factor, and just the idea that it's unfortunate to say, but people grow accustomed to some dysfunction.
yes.
And it's
Right.
sad to say, but that is a factor.
They accept it, yeah. Are they sometimes afraid of the abuser?
Absolutely. That's another factor. An abuser or an abusive situation can be what we would call a domestic violent situation that has grown old. You have
Right.
maybe a couple who have for years had their differences, and it's resulted in police coming to and from the home,
Right.
and this thing doesn't necessarily have to go away. You know, this can be persistent, or it could be reversed. I've been involved with cases where a woman had been the victim of physical abuse by her spouse, and now that the spouse is incapable of, say, doing for him or herself, then you find that person retaliating, and it's an unfortunate thing, but this is again something that that's a part of the whole abuse scenario where we find all these reasons why it continues to go on.
So there's a dynamic, often a family dynamic.
Family dynamic.
What other reasons? Why would a child abuse a parent?
Mm-hmm. Again, to a degree that I wish I had a lot more answers, because I find, despite all the experience, I'm still baffled and confused at the idea that this is the thing that people can find themselves doing. But again, you find dysfunction. We oftentimes say it didn't happen overnight.
Right,
Right. And I don't want to blame anyone in terms of how they rear their children or whatever, but those are factors.
Right.
There are real factors involved, and we wish for a lot of people that that they would understand the importance of respecting our seniors and respecting our elders, and these values need to be passed on.
Right,
It's so very important.
It's not a sudden.
No, it's not a sudden. I have 3 daughters, and I want them to treat me real good when I get older.
Right. I bet they do. So, one of our purposes for this program is to educate all of us to be aware of an abuse situation of someone we know. Mm-hmm. What are the things we should be looking for?
Well, it's a number of things, depending, again, your relationship with the individual. I mean, there are various factors that come into play when we're thinking about abuse. Particularly, we'll just take a case of neglect. You may have a neighbor that's acquainted with a senior who has, for the most part, they've been getting out, and all of a sudden they're no longer getting out and or doing things that that neighbor's accustomed to seeing them doing. And sometimes you may find just it being a bit nosy to look in on people and their situation, but we wish for the community in which we live that we would have people who were neighborly enough to stay involved or connected. And the same could be said for family, to stay connected with these individuals where these problems may stem. In other words, where there's an elderly person in there that has needs to be met. And if you're not aware of those needs not being met, then there's not going to be a report made. Or how are we, meaning agencies, police, whomever, going to find out about this and try to do our job in investigating it.
So we need people to be aware.
Yes.
Notice signs of change.
Yes.
Can you sometimes hear?
Yeah, you can hear in some instances. Say, for instance, with yelling or just the whole idea of you got this commotion going on with your neighbors next door, and there's an elderly person there. And, again, the important thing that I think we need to take into consideration is that, we're doing this out of concern Okay, we're not, wanting to police people, but we're concerned, and showing your concern. When you hear something that you feel is inappropriate, well, there's nothing wrong with calling about it.
So I can call if I suspect, if I'm suspicious.
Yes.
How do people feel about calling and giving information about other people?
Okay, this is a good question because, see, the state has a law that said all reported abuse cases are confidential.
Okay.
In other words, a person who makes a report can be certain that their information would never be divulged. Okay. This is important to know because, again, like you said, it would be fearful to know that, well, this person is aware that I made this report and they're subject to come after me or something like that. But there also need to be pointed out, though, that there are mandated reporters. And this is the law that stipulates that police, social workers, various people of the medical profession, paramedics, firemen, they're just an important fact that these individuals are trained and made aware of when, in fact, there's possible abuse going on in the home. So there is a mandatory reporter, but then there's volunteer reporters. And these reports can be made anonymously. Yeah. So that's a way of making the report.
So if you suspect elder abuse, it's enough to be suspicious, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We will give you a number to call. The call is confidential. And what happens after I report to you?
Good. Okay.
What's the process?
When a report is made, we do what we would call an intake on it. In other words, we now talk to the individual about that case that's reported. And that is when we have the responsibility of determining whether or not this is actually a case of abuse that would, at that point, require an investigator or specialist such as myself to go out into the community to investigate it. Okay. So once that call is made, now we have to determine, how soon we need to go out on that report. Now we have what we would consider 3 categories of a report. There's a priority 1, which in cases involving a senior who has been physically abused, we have to go out on that case in 24 hours. Oh. There's also a component which involves a case of neglect, and neglect cases we want to look in on within a 72-hour span. And again, a neglect situation could involve an individual having not getting their needs met, caregiver issues where they're not getting medication. It could be food. So we have to go out within a 72-hour span. Financial and emotional abuse, we have up to a week to go out on those cases. So once the call is made, we define if in fact it's abuse. We determine the time span that we're going to go out and investigate it, and then we go out and do the work.
So you come to my door. I don't know you're coming, right?
Right.
And what do you tell me?
Well, the first thing I do is I present my identification, and I explain, depending on who I'm talking to, that I am there, based on a call of concern. And depending on the nature of the call, I would at that point begin to try to speak with the senior whom the call was made about.
Okay.
So I have to speak with the senior in order to do my investigation. So the simplest way for me to say it is, once I go out there, I knock on the door and I don't know what's coming after that.
Right.
But I do know my role, and I do know the responsibility I have, as well as the state, you have to do requirement. Right? Yeah. So that's.
So what do you often find when you come to a home?
Well, it's a number of things, and I'm always amazed at what I can walk into, and how I walk into it Simply, it's just a matter of, you know, my observation has to come into play, you know, because if I enter into the home and now I'm looking at various signs that I can observe that
right.
would, in essence, give me a perspective as to whether or not the senior is being subjected to some type of a neglect. Okay, so I have the responsibility of being observant once I'm in the home. I have to focus in on that senior and determine if that senior can in fact or will in fact give me the right to advocate for him or her.
Oh.
In other words, some seniors could be in a situation where they have Alzheimer's or dementia. They don't know what's going on.
They don't know.
You know, so now I got to act in the senior's best interest.
Right.
I have to act in a way where hopefully the senior will, in some point, you know, their needs will be met through my advocacy. So we have, again, a big responsibility. We have to sort of kind of get in there and find out if the abuse is going on, and we have to interact with the abuser.
Right. Can the abuser refuse your help?
Well, the abuser refuses.
I meant the abused person.
Oh, the abused person. Well,
yeah.
There is a component in the law and that stipulates that the senior has a right to self-determine. Okay, and what that means is basically if that person is alert and oriented, they have every right to tell me, no, I don't need your services. Okay. They can remain in the situation that they're in. I can't do any more than they will allow me to do.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, if they understand what's happening.
If they understand what's happening.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Now, do you try to mediate? What do you do to improve the situation?
Always, I'm acting as a mediator. I'm always acting as an advocate. I don't present myself as the authority. I have authority based on state law, and I have those who have the authority to work with me, such as the police, the state's attorney's office, and they do work collectively with me and or our agency to address these abuse issues. Okay, but me, for the most part, I'm there to try and rectify the problem at hand. There could be cases where people aren't aware that they're actually placing seniors in a neglectful or an abusive situation.
Right.
You know, the whole idea of, say, someone yelling or talking to someone inappropriately, it just may be a matter of a person having been burnt out or at a point where they feel that this is the way to communicate with a person that's not hearing well or that's not being cooperative, and they may need some counseling.
It may not be abuse.
It may not be abuse just yet.
Right.
But surely it's something to be conscientious of, because of the fact that if a call was made, there was apparently something done that would cause someone to be concerned.
Right. So you try to mediate. The best situation would be to keep the family together.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yes.
What if you decide it's not going to work? Do you have other means of resolving?
Yes, we have. In some cases, we work with the public and the state guardian's office. There are situations, and again, this is never our intent. To go in and say, well, this environment is totally inappropriate. We have to do everything we can to pull the senior out of this environment. That's the last result. We don't want to do that. We want people to remain in their homes and to receive the support and the respect that they're entitled. Okay, and a lot of times it's just a matter of a family becoming acquainted with the support services that are out there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Senior services, we provide a number of support aids to keep seniors in our community. Good. And in some cases, people just aren't aware of them. You know, and we just need to, you know, give people information so that they become educated about this responsibility that's in hand right now.
Right.
You know, caring
That
for their
is
donor.
so important. People sometimes don't know how to access services.
Yep.
Once you get a social worker or legal services, whatever it is,
Yes.
it can ameliorate the situation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's
That's the important thing about government in a sense, you know, in terms of providing public support services and aids that would help us all, you know, maintain.
Very comforting. Now, once again, Andrew, for the sake of people who may notice abuse, what do I look for and what do I do?
Well, the main thing, again, you look for is, you know, understanding, again, situations, things change. You know, you can have someone's mail that's compiling up. You can have someone that you're seeing now and they're looking less and less groomed, just a number of things depending on the situation. Being open to discuss things with seniors who may want to share, you know, and talk about some of these things that are going on with them. And acquainting yourself with the services that can help you better define what abuse is and what it's not.
Okay, so very important.
Yeah.
Andrew, is there anything else of importance you'd like to add?
There's a component of the program that we didn't discuss, and that's called self-neglect. And self-neglect is some case or situation where you have people who are placing themselves in a situation that is not good. This is where hoarders and people who have these problems come in. The county, meaning senior services, we do go out to try to advocate and work with these people, and it's our hope to work with anyone who is in a situation where they need help. But we didn't discuss that, but that is a part of
neglect.
Neglect, but again, self-neglect. That individual may have some mental or health issue that is affecting their ability to do for themselves. But that's...
Thank you, very important. Thank you, Andrew, very much.
Thank you, Hannah, for having me.
And thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned about this very important, very sad, but very real problem of elder abuse and neglect. It could be self-neglect or neglect by caregivers. Please be aware of it and be sure to report any elder abuse. It's confidential. The number to call at DuPage County Senior Services is 1-800-942-9412 or after hours 1-800-279-0400. Or you can call us at the township at 630-719-6682. And thank you again for joining us today.